How to not lose muscle on a diet. As you guys probably know, almost every single person who goes on any of the fad diets, the popular ones, loses muscle on it. And actually most of these weight loss clinics and things like that, actually most diets also promote just getting the weight as low as you can, even if that means losing muscle, because it's all about the scale weight, right? So in this video, I'm going to share with you the 2 things you need to do in order to never lose muscle again, whether you be on a diet or not, which is going to be the key to actually keeping the weight off forever. Because when you lose muscle on a diet, once you stop, guess what? Your metabolic rate is now lower, you're gaining it all back. So we're going to cover that in this video. Before you go there, click the subscribe button below, because on this channel, you're going to learn how to build a strong, healthy, high-performing body as a successful entrepreneur without all the BS, the starvation, cardio, cutting out carbs, steroids, and all the crap that this industry promotes that you should do. No, you shouldn't. So smash that subscribe button below. Let's go. What's up, everyone? This is Coach Amir from 7figurebody.com, and in today's video, very popular topic, which is how to not lose muscle, well, when you are on a diet. So the first thing, let's set the stage. Why would you be losing muscle on a diet? Well, first thing is, remember, when you are in order to losing body fat, we know you have to be in a calorie deficit. Everybody with a brain knows that. However, when you are in a calorie deficit, that is more stress on the body. Your body has less, it's basically your brain is thinking you're starving to death, which basically dieting, meaning losing body fat effectively, from the standpoint of your brain and body, is literally like starving to death. Your brain does not know that, hey, we don't want to starve to death. We're just going to get you very lean and then stop there. The brain doesn't know that. The brain says, I need this many calories, this level here to maintain this body. Now I'm getting less than that. Not good, because if that keeps forever, I starve and die. That's what the brain thinks, and the body as well. However, of course, that's not what happens, right? But because of that, because there is a calorie deficit, the brain says, okay, what am I going to how can I now reduce the calorie output? And basically looks into, okay, in my own body, what tissue actually burns the most calories? And some of the, like there's some organs that burn a ton of calories, like liver, brain. But when it comes to the tissues that are really in large amounts, it's muscle. Muscle is actually one of the most metabolically active tissues in the body, burns relatively large amount of calories because we have a lot of it. Again, relatively speaking, compared to, let's say, liver or brain or lungs, right? These organs. And when you think about it that way, the brain is like, okay, so if I burn a little muscle, that's really good because my output of calories reduces, so I'm going to die later if this calorie deficit, deficiency of calories continues, right? Now, first thing, guys, let me say this. Being in a calorie deficit does not mean you have to lose muscle just because this is the case. That does not mean it at all. Actually, probably 90 to 95% of all the clients that I've ever worked with, which is to this point, the day of this recording, 1,200 and plus clients I've helped transform in the last 14 going into the 15th year as a professional coach. Not one of them ever lost muscle. Actually, 90 to 95% of them gained muscle while being in a deficit. Now, of course, now we know, in 2022, we know that gaining muscle in a deficit is not only possible, but it's actually very likely. And again, I have to qualify that. If somebody is a beginner, which most people are, they will absolutely have very high chances of gaining muscle when in a deficit, especially if they haven't been lifting before. Now they are. Even for some intermediate lifters, that is still doable. The only group that is very unlikely to gain any muscle in a deficit is an advanced lifter. But remember, population at large, even the gym going population, almost nobody's advanced. So basically, this really applies to almost everybody, that you can gain muscle in a calorie deficit. Absolutely. Now, what are the 2 things? There's only 2 things that you really have to do in order to first prevent muscle loss, but then also possibly gain some muscle while in deficit. Number 1 is enough protein. That is the number 1 thing. So obviously, I've probably said this 10 million times on this channel in all the videos, nobody eats enough protein, pretty much. Again, at least according to evidence-based scientific consensus today, which is anywhere between 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Okay, nobody eats that. Almost everybody eats probably half of that. Okay, so that's number 1 thing. Eat enough protein. Total amount of protein at the end of the day is what matters most. It matters more than the type of protein you eat, the distribution of it, how many meals you've had, the quality of protein. All that has a role, but it's less important. The most important is total amount of protein. Okay, how much should you get? Start with 0.7 times your weight in pounds. That's how many grams of protein you should have. So if you are, let's say 200 pounds, you should have 0.7 times 200 is 140 grams. You should have 140 grams of protein, okay? So start there. It's a great starting point for most people. Okay, that's first thing. The second thing is you have to do proper resistance training. I choose my words carefully here. Proper means going to the gym doesn't mean you are doing it properly. Actually, I would say 90, God knows, but very, very, very high percentage of people going to the gym basically don't do much there. They're just either maintaining or doing less than that. Why? Because there's no form. Number one, the form is not good. Number two, the form of how they're actually executing exercises. Number one. Number two, there is no training program that is including progressive overload. Meaning, most guys in the gym, if you find a guy who's been going to the gym 3-4 times a week for 10 years, and you look at the weights and the poundages and tonnage, if you will, that he's moving in the gym, it's pretty much the same now as it was 3 years ago, as it was 5 years ago. So that means at best he's maintaining what he had. So there's no progress, right? So in this case, please remember, number one, total protein amount. Number two, proper lifting, meaning the training plan that is science-based and customized for that person. And again, for beginners, this customization is not that important. Absolute basic, however many times you go into the gym is more than enough. So for most beginners, I actually have a bunch of videos on how to do progression based on which of these you are. If you are an advanced or intermediate or beginner lifter, there are things you need to focus on in each stage. So for beginners, which again, most people are, and please don't take this as, oh, I'm not a beginner, I'm an advanced. Everybody thinks they're advanced, and actually they're not. Like, they're far, far, far from being even an intermediate, which is a good thing. As a beginner lifter, in the first stages, you are able to build way more muscle than you ever will anytime later on, right? Anytime in intermediate, anytime in advanced stages. So being beginner is great. I wish I had the body that I have now and I was a beginner lifter. That would be awesome. Of course, can't happen, right? But please remember, there are two things you need to focus on as a beginner lifter. Number one, proper form, proper execution with full range of motion of all exercises. That's basically it. Proper execution. That's number one. Number two, mind-muscle connection. Actually feeling the muscle that is being trained, that is being worked on. So if I do a bicep curl like this, I'm like, hey guys, you should, like the birds and all this, and I'm doing bicep curl. What is that muscle getting? Nothing. Right? On the other hand, you can, and that's why I always say, probably half of the weight that most people are using in a gym, I could take 50% of their weight, like half of it, and show them how to do it properly with proper mind-muscle connection. They will not be able to do it because it would be too heavy, right? So don't go for more weight unless or until your form and mind-muscle connection are there. So you're feeling the muscle that you're training, and the form is absolutely, it doesn't have to be perfect, but really, really, really good, right? So if you do these two things, I guarantee you, you will not lose muscle, number one. And number two, if you do them really good and properly, you actually have a high chance of actually gaining muscle while being in a deficit. Now, why does this matter? Matters a lot because most people, as I said in the intro for this video, most people on most diets will lose muscle, and then their metabolic rate is lower. When they stop the dieting, now they're burning fewer calories and they gain it all back. This is one of the main reasons why yo-yo dieting happens. And as you guys know, almost by definition, vast majority of people who start any diet and lose any weight on it regain all of the weight back. Why? One of the reasons for that, there's many, like they're starving themselves, they're doing the unsustainable thing, of course, but out of those things, the number one, or probably like up there, like one of the most biggest ones is they are losing muscle. So their body's now trying to regain this muscle, and it just so happens that the body can regain body fat much faster than it can regain muscle. And this is the reason why people actually, this is basically the physiology behind why why yo-yo dieting happens. And we know that it happens more often than not. So by number one, not losing muscle on a diet, you prevent yo-yo dieting. And two, actually building more muscle is just better in so many ways, right? Your calorie output is actually higher. Your body doesn't have to gain any body fat back because, hey, there's now muscle. We're burning calories. It's great. I like being lean. So all of the good things will happen when you build more muscle. So guys, please remember, enough protein and proper lifting. That's really all there is. And I've also heard when I talk about this topic in my, on Instagram, on Facebook, and social media, people associate being in a calorie deficit with you will absolutely automatically lose muscle. So they say, how can you be in a caloric deficit without being hungry? How can you be in a caloric deficit without losing muscle? Of course you can. So, that first one, without being hungry, please watch the first video on this channel. I explained how that is done. And then in this one, I told you how to do it without you're basically losing any muscle and actually gaining some while in a deficit. So hope you liked this video. Hope you found it helpful. If you did, please click the subscribe button below, and also check out in the description below. There's a link. You can click on it. When you put your name and email, I will give you an absolutely free video where I show A to Z process of how I transformed not only myself to go from fat kid to a coach and professional athlete to an Olympic Games candidate, but also somebody who has transformed over 1,200 clients and became known as the Dan Kennedy of fitness in this, at least, entrepreneurial community. And I also am going to send you a free digital version of my book as well. This book sells on Amazon for $25. You can go check it out. If you buy it, go ahead. It's going to be the best book you've ever read. I guarantee it. But you don't even have to buy it. I'm going to give you a digital version for free. So check that out in that description in the link in the description below this video. Check it out, and thank you guys for watching. See you next video. Cheers.